This right here is the fastest knockout in history.
Bring a tire in or underway. Here we go. Oh, run out of the gate!
And if you think that was crazy, the other facts on this video will blow your mind and make you appreciate the sport even more. But first, let's just watch this again though, what he does. He runs straight out to the guy, which is fine because you're trying to intimidate them. But you need to stop your feet before you get to them and then feint. But he doesn't, he just keeps running. He tries to throw a sloppy right hand. Then his opponent, who's the southpaw, is throwing that nice lead hook and he runs onto it and boom, he's asleep. Wow. And I don't think that record will ever get beat. So that was the shortest fight in history. Now let's talk about the longest fight in history. This was between two fighters called Andy Bowen and Jack Berg. They had the longest boxing match ever recorded back in 1893. And what's crazy about this, other than how long it went, was the fight ended up a no contest. Neither fighter could continue. They were exhausted. And listen to this. This fight lasted 110 bloody rounds and it went over 7 hours long. Now just imagine the stamina and the endurance that you would need to be able to do that. Now, as you can imagine, after this fight, both of these men were hospitalized, and it was said that Berg even continued the fight after breaking both of his hands. Now, this shows the heart and determination and the willpower that these fighters had back then, but also it shows how bloody crazy they were. And I don't think we'll ever see a fight that long ever again in my lifetime anyway. Now, this next fact is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. People think boxing is a modern-day sport, but it's not. You know what? It dates back to the ancient times, and boxing was actually in the Olympic Games in 688 BC, which was over 2,700 years ago. And back then, they didn't wear gloves. They would wrap their hands in leather straps. And obviously, the sport's evolved a lot since then. And back then, it was way more brutal. The fighters would compete until the other person give up. They didn't have any round times. They would just go on and on. But what's crazy is when I was boxing in the Olympics in 2008, I fought 4 2-minute rounds, and that felt like a bloody long time. So imagine fighting without a clock. Blows me bloody mind. Just like the next fact does, which was the first $1 million fight between Jack Dempsey and George Carpenter. This took place back in 1921. And back then, how much do you think $1 million was worth? Well, due to inflation, there's been over 300% inflation in the last 100 years, which means that $1 million would have been worth $31 million today. And you can imagine that's a fat lump of money now, never mind back then. And this fight was huge. This was the beginning of big money in boxing. And Dempsey won the fight and both fighters walked away with a hefty paycheck. And this big, huge fight was in front of 80,000 people, which back then was crazy. Just like the next thing that I'm going to talk about, which is the heaviest boxing champion of all time. And this was Nikola Valuev. He was the WBA World Heavyweight Champion, not that long ago actually, in 2005 to 2009. And he was known for his sheer size. Just look at the size from here compared to David here. And because of his sheer size, this was just a big advantage in the ring. No pun intended. But he was also surprisingly pretty agile for the size of the man.
Went down off the table. Oh, that right hand should do it.
And he did face some top heavyweights in this era, including Evander Holyfield and, like I mentioned, David Haye. And I remember seeing David Haye preparing for this fight. His trainer was wearing stilts in the ring, as you can see here, trying to show him what it was like to be punching right up there like that. But because of Valuev's pure size, he wasn't the fastest heavyweight in the world, as you can imagine. He was standing 7 feet tall and weighing a whopping 320 pounds. Now, talking about the heaviest, let's talk about the oldest. One of the most common questions I get asked in the comments is, Tony, am I too old to start boxing? Well, this next guy would tell you, no, definitely not. This is Bernard Hopkins. He's a pure legend of the sport. He's proven that age is just a number. And what's funny is his nickname was the Executor because he used to just smash everyone up. But then later on in his career, they changed his name to the Alien. He had a professional career that spanned over 28 years, and he was known for his incredible conditioning in the ring. I remember seeing him against Pascal for the world title, and he was doing push-ups in the ring in between rounds. Now, just imagine that if you're in the opposite corner to him, and you're seeing this guy just blasting out push-ups. Yeah, now that right there is one of the reasons why he is called the bloody alien. And Hopkins' longevity in the sport is a testament to his dedication, to his training and their ability to adapt his style as he aged. He won the WBA and the IBF light heavyweight titles, aged at a whopping 49 years old. Now, going from the most legit fighter like Bernard Hopkins, now I want to talk about Hollywood actors who have taken up the sport of boxing to get into great shape or to play amazing roles in movies. And I myself have trained a lot of famous actors. The likes of Chris Hemsworth was boxing with us, Frank Grillo, Taylor Lautner, and even females like Kaylee Cuoco. I even trained Wood Harris for his role as he played the coach of Michael B. Jordan in the famous movie Creed. Then you also have the likes of Robert De Niro, who trained intensively for his amazing part in the movie Raging Bull. Now, I never trained him. I'm not that bloody old. Sylvester Stallone is another one that went through a rigorous boxing training through the amazing Rocky series. Then you've even got the likes of Will Smith, who lived the life of a boxer when he played the role of Ali. Now, I know that these actors who are playing big Hollywood movie roles are training like real boxers. They're even sparring, they're doing the road work, they're doing everything, living like a real boxer would do. Now, let me ask you this. What is your favourite boxing movie of all time? Let me know in the comments below. Mine's got to be Rocky IV. And what's crazy about Rocky IV being my favourite movie of all time? I was in the house one time and I got a phone call on a royal phone of Dolph Lundgren, and I was on the phone with Dolph Lundgren, who's Ivan Drago, for 20 minutes when I lived in Los Angeles, and he was asking me about boxing training, and I was supposed to be training him for his role in the Creed movie as well, but when I got to the gym a week later, he didn't show up, and I was a bit devastated. But anyway, I had a great phone call with him and seemed like a nice guy until he didn't show up for my session. Now, another thing about boxing that people don't think about at all is it actually improves your brain health. Well, this is unless you're getting punched in the face all the time, but studies have shown that boxing can really enhance cognitive functions like memory and attention and problem-solving skills. And I co-own a boxing fitness gym in Los Angeles right now, and for years, people have been coming to the gym who've got Parkinson's disease, and they are training boxing.
Small studies have found that boxing can help reduce falls and improve walking speed and endurance in Parkinson's patients.
And the reason they are is because the benefits is unbelievable. I've spoken to many people with Parkinson's disease that's come to the gym and done boxing training, and they tell me that when they come in the gym, they've got bad tremors in their hands and body, but after their boxing session, they seem to go away straight away. And it's kind of mind-blowing, but it just shows how good this is for your brain. Obviously, the tremors come back. They don't go away for good, but for the time being, they leave them, and that's why boxing training for people with Parkinson's is huge now, because this mental engagement helps keep your brain sharp and reduces the risk of cognitive decline as you age. So it's not just great for people with Parkinson's or fighters, it's great for everyone who wants to just get in great shape, help their brain training. I can't recommend boxing training highly enough. You don't have to get punched in the face. You shouldn't get punched in the face, but you should definitely do it for fitness. And this brings me lovely on to the next fact about boxing for fitness. This is the reason why it is one of, if not the #1 fitness modality in the world right now. And you're not going to believe this, but there's so many people and personal trainers out there making a great living from teaching boxing for fitness. You don't have to have been a boxer to be able to teach boxing for fitness. You need to understand it. And I've been teaching boxing for fitness for years now, owning 2 gyms in Los Angeles and also the world's #1 boxing fitness education course. And I've taught thousands and thousands of personal trainers, former boxers, anyone who's wanting to learn how to teach boxing for fitness and make a career out of it. I've done this through a Boxing Fitness Academy online certification course. This is where you get a great understanding of everything you need to know to teach boxing for fitness successfully. And like I said, you don't have to have been a boxer to be able to do this. You don't even have to have sport to be able to do this. You need to get a great understanding of it. And that's what we give you on this course. And now you might be thinking,
well, Tony, how the hell can you learn how to box and teach boxing from an online certification course? That's pathetic.
well, if you're thinking that, you're wrong. Because how this works is you will watch videos, you will practice what we teach on them videos, then you will answer questions about them. And because you're doing it this way, all of the information is retaining in your brain. And then once you've watched the videos, answer questions, then you submit videos to us. Then either me or one of our boxing fitness experts will assess you and give you personalized feedback as well as full support to get through this course and come out the other end ready to go and have a great little side hustle or change your bloody career. So if you're interested for this and maybe starting a career you in teaching boxing for fitness, go to boxingfitness.com and check out our online course. And if it's right for you, if you use code VIPTJ, I'm going to give you $100 off. How about that, my friend? Now, on the subject of making money with boxing, that brings me on to the next point. The richest boxing match in history was a fight between, can you guess who? Floyd and Manny Pacquiao. This was back in 2015. This fight set crazy new records of pay-per-view buys and revenue, showcasing the massive financial impact of boxing. Many call this fight the fight of the century because it actually took years to negotiate all the deals with this fight. I feel like it should have happened like 4 years earlier. Now, this fight generated, are you ready for this? Not 300 million, not 400 million, not 500, but 600 million in revenue. Floyd Mayweather made a whopping $300 million. He took it home with him. And Manny Pacquiao took home $120 million bloody dollars as well. Now, that is an absolute bloody fortune. And when I boxed after coming back from the Olympics with a medal, I thought, yes, I've made a lot of money. And I did, compared to most people. And do you want to know how much money I made? Well, I made a full video on it. So if you click here, watch this video next, I'll tell you about how much money I made from boxing and what I invested that money in. Click here and watch this video next.